Hello, dear listeners. Please continue watching Episode 2, The Power of America in the Founding Era. Territory can create a nation, but only institutions decide how far that nation will go and whether it will become great. In the previous episode, we looked at the map of the United States, a vast territory, favored by nature, protected by two oceans, rich in resources, and with nearly limitless space to expand. But history has proven one very clear thing. Land by itself does not create a superpower. Many countries possess vast territories and abundant resources, yet still fall into poverty, chaos, and endless conflict. So what made the United States follow such a different path? The answer does not lie in the military. It does not lie in the economy. It does not lie in technology. At least not yet. Because for a nation to rise from its roots, it must begin with how it organizes power. 1. America's greatest fear: unchecked power. A nation is truly strong only when power is controlled, not when power cannot be challenged. From the very founding of the nation, the founders of the United States understood one thing very clearly. The greatest threat to freedom does not always come from outside. It comes from power within, if that power is not limited. After gaining independence from the British Empire, the 13 young states entered a period full of hope, but also full of anxiety. They had just escaped the rule of a mighty empire. Now they faced a life and death question. How do you build a government strong enough to survive, but not so strong that it becomes tyranny? This is not only a political problem. It is a problem of human nature. The founders understood very well, power, even when it begins with good intentions, if not controlled, will sooner or later tend toward abuse. Therefore, when they sat down to write the Constitution, their goal was not to create an all-powerful government. Their goal was to design a system in which power could not be concentrated and could not be abused. 2. The Constitution, not to praise power, but to doubt it. In 1787, in Philadelphia, the United States stood on the brink of disintegration. The central government was too weak. The states behaved like independent nations. Debts piled up. Riots broke out. The solution was not to grant unlimited power to the center. The solution was to redesign the entire structure of national power. The Constitution did not emerge like an idealistic declaration. It resembled a technical blueprint. Each clause reflected a fear. If this power is abused, what will happen? And immediately, a blocking mechanism was built into the system. The U.S. Constitution does not begin by granting power to the government. It begins by limiting the power the government is allowed to use. The government was designed to serve the people, not to rule them. The authors of the Constitution did not believe that elected leaders would always be wise. They also did not believe that voters would always be right. Instead, they built a system in which human errors would be corrected by the very structure of power itself. Separation of powers. Power must be controlled by power. If the Constitution is the overall blueprint, then the separation of powers is the load-bearing framework of that blueprint. The founders did not only fear creating a new king, they feared anyone holding too much power. European history had taught them a bitter lesson. When legislative, executive, and judicial powers are concentrated in one place, freedom sooner or later disappears. So they chose a very different path. Power would not be given to a single center. It had to be broken up, structured, and forced to collide with itself. 3 branches of power: legislative makes the laws, executive enforces the laws, judicial interprets and protects the laws. No branch stands above another. No branch is allowed to act alone. Every major decision must pass through the criticism of another branch. This is the principle. Ambition must be used to restrain ambition. 4. Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court. Congress, slow but deep power. 2 chambers with different terms and interests were designed to make passing laws difficult. Americans accept slowness to avoid impulsive decisions. The President, strong but limited power, can be controlled by Congress through the budget, can be impeached, can have decisions overturned by the courts. Even as Commander-in-Chief, the President cannot unilaterally declare war. The courts, quiet but enduring power. They have no army. They do not control the budget, but they have the power to interpret the Constitution. A ruling by the Supreme Court can change America for decades. And because judges have lifetime terms, they are not under pressure from short-term politics. 5. The rule of law. Law above man. The separation of powers would be meaningless without the rule of law. The rule of law is not about having many laws. The rule of law is the principle that every individual, including the president, is bound by the law. The law does not exist to protect the government. It exists to protect society from the abuse of government power. In America, the president can be sued. The government can lose in court. Laws passed by Congress can be declared unconstitutional, not because the system is weak, but because the system allows self-correction. The rule of law creates trust. Contracts will be respected, property will be protected, disputes will be fairly adjudicated. That is why investors dare to commit capital, businesses dare to take risks, and citizens dare to speak out. Federalism. Decentralization to avoid collapse. The United States was not born as a unified nation. It is a collection of states with different histories and interests. If the center is too strong, the states will rebel. If the center is too weak, the nation will fall apart. The solution was federalism. The federal government holds essential powers: defense, foreign affairs, currency, interstate commerce. The states retain control over daily life, education, healthcare, criminal law, elections, local taxes. Each state is like a policy laboratory. Failures are contained locally. Successes are scaled up. Number 7. Individual freedom and private property. A nation may have a good constitution, but if individuals are not free, it will never be prosperous. Americans believe that individual rights come before state power. The government does not create human rights. The government exists only to protect those rights. Freedom of speech is most strongly protected, not because all speech is true, but because truth only emerges when ideas collide freely. Private property protects the fruits of labor. You create it, you own it. The state cannot arbitrarily confiscate it. That is what makes people dare to take risks, dare to fail, and dare to try again. 8. Compromise. The soul of the American system. America was not born from consensus, but from compromise. No one got everything they wanted, but everyone got enough to accept living together. In the American system, the rules of the game matter more than the winner. You can lose an election, but you cannot deny the system. Conflict is not eliminated, it is locked into the rules of the game. Congress argues, the president is challenged, states sue the federal government, citizens sue the state. Everything happens openly. Everything happens within the system. Conclusion. The Constitution is the overall blueprint. The separation of powers is the load-bearing framework. The rule of law is the protective system. Federalism creates flexibility. Individual freedom creates energy. Compromise keeps the system from self-destructing. America's strength does not lie in who is in power. It lies in this: the law stands firm when power changes. And from that institutional foundation, another factor began to shape the American people: a pioneering spirit, a belief in the future, a way of seeing themselves. That is the story in the next episode of the America series. Thank you, dear listeners, for following the MinFeed channel. Remember to like and subscribe to continue watching America in the Founding Era, Episode 3, under the channel description.